about that? If I'm that person saying, I did this dumb thing years ago, I'm a changed man. How do I get that kind of to work and not seem like, whoa, man, we got to stay away from this guy?
I've actually had that happen often because we would have salespeople who they had to be able to drive. So I've had the younger ones where that happened when they were in college, but honestly, they were only 25. So It's still weren't sure they were out of that situation. But I did have a gentleman who actually did have issues with alcohol and went through treatment and everything. And he turned out to be a great hire because his was underage drinking. I think he was 18 or 19.
Oh, sure.
Probably didn't go get help, right away. And we talked about it right away. And the thing was, you can find out a lot about people, social media, all the different things. He was married. He had a family. He had a long career. He was looking for a different position, and he had a position. And the other huge thing is I am a great reference checker. So I don't ask you to give me 3 to 6 references and they're going to be the best person that you worked with at that company that you left. I ask you for people who were your managers, and if you had any subordinates and your peers, and I kind of have them make like an org chart.
Okay.
So then I can see who they worked for, and I'll be like, I want to talk to this person.
Ooh. Okay, that's something to watch out. Like as an applicant, that's something I would never really expect to see in a job interview. Really interesting.
And I have to say, I learned that from an owner years and years ago, because that's not something that I would have come up with. But then when you think about it, if I ask you for references, you're going to give me the best ones.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're going to call the references and you're going to say, this is what I applied for. They're going to be calling you. If I can check people, and I don't just do the ones, obviously a lot of times if you're working, I can't check those. I don't just check the last job. I'll check 2 jobs, ago. So yeah, extensive references, and you can find out a lot of things. And that particular gentleman, he had great character. And I've lived life. I have brothers, and things happen. And I just don't want to judge somebody from something that they did, 10 years ago, even, that they're not going to change. That would just be sad. So. Wow.
And that's refreshing, Barb, that like people who are seeking a job today just run into so much machine stuff. It's walls, and it's unyielding, it's unfeeling. To hear a little bit of heart in HR from what you just said, that I think is a rare thing now, especially because again, we kind of hid everything behind metal, if you will. Okay. So that's, if you're that person, maybe out there, listener, if you are that person who has that past that somebody might call checkered, HR is not your absolute enemy in this case. And sometimes, if you're a changed person, perhaps you can really do well. So that's great. Good deal. All right, Barb. Now here's one I've really wanted to lay to rest for a long time. No, and I think you're going to have a great thought on it. So I'm a former millennial job seeker. I've started my own company, all these things like that. I finally got fed up with the thing, and I said, I can help people do this. So a lot of times when I was actually, and this was a number of years ago, as well as like 2 years ago for me, I've been unemployed twice in my life, which is fine. I heard especially from a lot of folks who are like my parents' age in their mid 60s or so, that the in-person job presentation is really the way to go. And I don't feel like that's really good in today's market. So in your opinion, is the old tactic of going to a business, demanding to see the CEO or the hiring manager and, saying, I need an interview, is that dead? Why or why not?
I would never do it. So I would have people, excuse me, there would be a position, and I would have people come drop off resumes. Yeah. When I was just working in corporate, and they would want to talk to me. Well, I'm busy. So that was presumptuous that you could just, show up and think that I was going to be able to talk to you. But talk about desperate. Sorry. I think now that looks a little desperate. Times just aren't the same. Like I remember one of my first jobs in the 80s, you could walk in, it was at a bank. You could walk into the bank and hand them your resume, and most likely somebody would talk to you like they didn't even have an HR department, you know?
Interesting.
Not anymore. People, it's just not going to happen. What is more beneficial for you is to go on their LinkedIn, if they have a company LinkedIn, or type the company name in LinkedIn and see people who work there. What's better for you is to reach out to an employee that works there. See if any of your friends are connected with the person who's there, or that's way better benefit these days than taking your resume in cold, especially if you want to try to meet with this would happen a lot, the owner and CEO and president of the company. You know, people would be like, I want to talk to him. That was never going to happen. He was never going to see you cold. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that puts the nail in the coffin for that, which is great. I've been shrieking at people for years now that no, you don't do that anymore, because
don't do that.
Yeah, it's I think it's rude. Number one,
well,
I think,
and it looks desperate.
It does. And the other thing too is, so many businesses nowadays have security protocols too. When you and I were talking about one of my past jobs, I worked in a locked building all day long. You couldn't come in and see people,
Mm-hmm.
And if you did, you were treated with suspicion because it was, the firearms industry and everybody had guns. So.
Right? Yeah, y'all could do concealed carry.
Are you here to be a bad person? If you are, you're going to pay for it. But
exactly.
So I guess in the interest of making people feel more comfortable, less uneasy, and be a more polite person who might actually have a better chance of getting that job, we can probably lay that to rest. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'm almost relieved to hear that's right, because I've been saying that to a lot of people for a number of years now, and they're like, no, you got to do this because that's the way we did it in the 50s. I'm like, yeah, that was the 50s. So, okay. All right. So let's pretend for a moment, Barb, that we got an interview in this case. And so we know the etiquette. You show up 15 minutes early, you be really kind to everybody you meet, because you never know what they're going to say to the CEO. And I think that was part of your experience, as you mentioned. Wear nice clothing, don't stink. Research the company and the position you're looking for. So what's the one thing that before an interview nobody does that is a huge stumbling block for them, that's kind of in that same vein?
I love the don't stink.
Sorry.
It's true. Please don't smell bad.
Right.
Well, and that goes both ways. Don't put on so much cologne or perfume that it's overbearing. And yeah. So I think the biggest thing is if people are interviewing for a host of different positions, and you start to talk about your position, they kind of forget which position they're there for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when you were saying about researching and, and all the things, like maybe right before you go in, just look over that job description.
Gotcha. Kind of reprime the pump almost, if you will.
Correct. Because a lot of times people focus on what they've done in the past, which is good. We need your history. But I want you to, I'm going to ask you questions about the job description, and I want to know how you're going to do this job.
Okay.
So if you can look at it and prepare yourself ahead of time as to how you're going to do this, what kind of employer are you going to be for me? Like, great, that's how you've been in the past. How are you going to do this? Are you a self-starter? Are you going to be able to, like this project coordinator position that I was just filling, a lot of it was personality, because the project coordinator has to talk to the PMs and you got to keep them in line. And you're coming in brand new and these managers have been there a while, but you're going to be like, you didn't invoice this. You got to keep this on time. You have to, a host of things. Can you do that? So yeah, that's a huge thing. Another, besides looking the company up, is I always suggest people go on Glassdoor.
Okay.
Or just do a Google search to see if anybody's reviewed the company. Kind of maybe even do that before you apply for the position, just in case you see some bad things.
Flags.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's just a tip. But
spent way too much time on Glassdoor over the past few years, and I've seen some crazy things.
I know. And when you see 10 of them and they're kind of all consistently bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be there.
Right. And that's maybe an overall red flag for the company, right? That's
correct.
So discounting that, I think, is important as well. Good to know. And I think you have a really great thought process there with the refresh yourself on the job that you're at right now, because you probably just applied for 4 more while you're in the car or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So.
And it's totally understandable. But it's kind of like when you're on a date and you want that person to feel like they're the only one that you're dating. I want to feel like this is the job that you really want, because if it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for me to interview you and to go through all these things. And then at the end of the day, have you say, I was really more interested in this one. So
gotcha.
Just make me think so that it's worth my time that this is the one you really want.
Okay. Now then that puts a little tangent question here. There are a lot of jobs out there that just kind of suck. I mean, like it's not because it's low pay or anything like that, but it's really uninteresting. There's a lot of like, I'm trying to think what a good example of is of this that I've seen lately. But the ones that are really either low skill, repetitive, whatever it might be. What's your advice to somebody who is maybe an interviewee trying to show enthusiasm for a job that just isn't really, I don't want to say worth getting excited about, but like, let's pretend I'm going to go get hired at McDonald's. I don't have a passion for, I love fried food, but like dropping fries all day, I don't have a passion for that. Sorry. Like what's the tactic to kind of, I don't want to say fool, but be genuine.
Yeah. Or sweeping up after people or taking out the trash. I think in that instance, it's more about personality, and you can be I'm organized, I'm, all the things, and just focus on yourself and all the good things about you and your character, and maybe not so much about sweeping or, doing. And the thing is, there's a job for everybody. And if you need that job and you want to use that because you're going to go to school, or you want to use that because you have no job experience at all and you have to start somewhere, then just do it the best that you can. And yeah, don't feel belittled, because someone's got to do that. And that's okay if that's what you need to do for a couple of years before you can move on to the next thing, or if you end up being the manager of McDonald's.
Fair enough. Maybe you start your own franchise, right?
There you go.
Good deal. I feel like a lot of people in life and history are always like, I worked my way up from, this position. Now I'm the king. So that's always good.
Now I'm the king. Yeah, I'm not the owner. I am the king.
Right. Hey, at a certain burger restaurant, you could be the Burger King.
That's true. This is true.
Good deal. All right. So shifting back into the interview portion of this, Barb, as far as, when somebody goes in and has maybe you sitting across from them and is either coming in for round 1 or maybe round 2, what are your opinions on someone who's a note taker? I'm in a few minds about it myself, and there's a sales tactic that I've been taught that I've used with some success with taking notes when it comes to an interview. Do you feel that an applicant who asks to take notes adds to or detracts from their job prospects?
If you're taking notes the whole time, I'm personally not going to like that, because I like more the conversation thing, and I want you to be looking at me, because the whole eye contact thing. I do, however, think some of the things that are said you don't want to forget when you're in an interview. Okay. So I would always take a notebook and a pen to, if they say something, to say, is it okay if I write that down? And ask no, no interviewer is going to say no, you can't take notes. I wouldn't want to be recorded, but
that's fair. Okay. So yeah. Because some people would, I'm sure, take notes that way.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think you're really paying attention. So, and I'm saying that from myself. When I go into, like a seminar or something, I'm a copious note taker, because that's how my brain remembers things. But when I'm interviewing people, I'll just write a couple of things down, just because I don't want to take time away from what it is that they're doing. So I'm interested, what's your sales tactic that you use for the note.
Sure. Yeah, this is actually I think I learned this from Jeb Blunt, who's a guy. He founded a website called Sales Grid.